Howdy, howdy! Hello. And welcome to But It Was Aliens, the paranormal comedy podcast where we probe around the globe and beyond, determining for the questionable benefit of humanity as to whether alleged paranormal activity really was paranormal. I'm your host today, and my name is Kevin. I am honourable. Alongside me, with no idea what is coming up today, is Mr. Granville Moonwalker. And Mr. Moonwalker is trustworthy. Today, we are heading to Kecksburg, which is not an iceberg of underwear in Pennsylvania, but is actually part of the Mount Pleasant Township in Pennsylvania's Westmoreland County. Kecksburg dates back to around 1860, when about 5 acres of land were purchased by German Johann Martin Keck. Over time, the town developed a little, but more importantly, this place has developed a reputation as Pennsylvania's Roswell.
Did they come for the kecks?
Someone.
Stage 1. Collect underpants. Stage 2. Stage 3.
Perfect.
Stage 2 is probe.
Perhaps the missing link. Let's put a business plan together. Do you think kecks means the same thing in other countries as it does in the United Kingdom?
Probably not.
So for those of you who are not familiar with what kecks are to us, kecks is another word for underwear. Pants is also a word for underwear, not trousers. It all begun and happened and ended on the late afternoon and early evening of December the 9th, 1965. Residents of Indiana, New York, Detroit, Michigan, Virginia, and Windsor, Ontario were all going about their business. We are talking places 5.5 and even around 15 hours driving time away from the location we are focusing on today, Kecksburg. Nanny Miriam was inside sipping her Horlicks. Who Wants to Be a Thousandaire was on the TV, black and white of course, all was well. Grandpappy Patrick was on the porch chomping on a cigar in his overalls gearing up for a game of dominoes. All was well.
Domino!
Suddenly, people in Pittsburgh heard the distinctive boom of a sonic boom.
Sonic boom!
Miriam, Patrick, and many others all spat out their food and drink in shock. What the F was that? Residents all over the countries looked up where the truth is in unison and saw that something was moving through the sky at incredible speed. We are talking, this thing was visible for seconds here. This thing was rapid and was most definitely not a plane or known man-made craft. It looked like a fireball, and as a giant fireball might, small fires developed all along Ohio and Pennsylvania. The fires were caused by flaming metallic debris falling from above. Something was coming down.
So it wasn't a plane.
Definitely wasn't a plane.
Or a known man-made craft.
Mm-hmm.
What about an unknown man-made craft?
But not a plane.
Maybe it was not a plane.
Tell me about this craft.
But it was
And if you can't, it couldn't have been.
I can't think of the word I'm looking for. And it's such a simple word. What if this is the first drone? And they were testing drones to be able to break the sound barrier. And the sonic boom they heard was this object breaking the sound barrier. And then being engulfed in flames as it fell apart.
So your first theory here is drone.
Yes, you
little
said it couldn't be a plane.
quadcopter drone kind of thing.
Not a copter. Like a
But you said the
missile.
first drone. They didn't go straight to missile, surely.
Well, you said I couldn't say it was a plane. So, other than a plane that's shaped like a plane is a missile drone.
A drone is not a plane.
It's not. Although you telling me I can't say it's a plane doesn't mean it's not a plane.
Can't say it's human-made. In Kecksburg, people too were going about their business, such as Ray E. Landy, and sure enough, many local residents looked up and saw the chaos in the sky. Only the chaos was much closer to ground as it passed over Kecksburg, trailed by blue smoke. Blue!
Fuel.
The chaos was so much closer that the ground begun vibrating as the object continued to travel down, and suddenly it hit some woods by Kecksburg. Ha-boom! Residents such as Francis Culp called the authorities. No sooner had this happened, the United States Army moved in. They couldn't have got there that quick, especially not all geared up as they were. It was almost like the Army and state police knew that this thing was coming and knew exactly where it was going to hit. They were prepared. The Department of Defense in Washington, however, announced that first reports indicated that whatever happened was a natural phenomenon. Now, I ask you, humans are natural, aren't they? Animals are nature, that's natural, right? Aliens could be biological entities that developed much like ourselves on this planet, so that would be natural too, right? Entities equal natural phenomena. Indeed. Indeed. I'm on to your cover-ups, you military bastards.
So, drone. I think, depending on... I could be totally wrong here.
Mm-hmm.
A certain mixture of oil, could be oil and water or something, can give off the look of blue smoke. I remember it ages ago, and I'm talking ages ago when I was a mechanic, that blue smoke could be caused by, I think, excess burning of oil or something. Are you now looking it up on Google?
Yeah, I'm just looking it up. Blue smoke can often look like grey smoke at first, but if you notice a distinctive bluish tint, it may signal that the engine is burning lots of oil.
There we go.
Well done. Well done.
This drone,
educational.
This drone could be burning excess amounts of oil as it propels itself through the sky.
But drones tend to run battery powered, then not usually big enough to carry enough fuel to...
Normally they do. They learnt from this crash.
Do you honestly, at this point, hand on your heart, believe that this...
Yes! It's a drone! I've seen no slabbings, no entities.
I'm not suggesting it's that type of event.
No tractor beams, no little green alien mens.
I mean, I've not even put it out there.
No objects moving at incredible speeds.
Well, we've had an object moving at incredible speeds, actually. That's exactly what we've covered.
The fact that you said it wasn't a plane and that it wasn't man-made or not known human-made, whatever you said at the start, literally has just got me hooked on drone. Tell you what, I will suspend disbelief and I will not say that it's a drone. But if you tell me at the end of this probe that this is a drone, you owe me £1,000 on top of the £750 that you already owe me.
I thought it was 500.
Never said 500, I said 750.
I can't remember if we were recording when we talked about this. What about an alien drone?
So a drone.
I mean, I've not even put it out there that this could have been an alien craft doing a flyby and the military intervened. That's why they knew where it was going to go down. I've not even suggested that. Could be a drone. And I don't owe you shit.
Drone.
But I might do by the end of this episode. Having seen this thing come down, some brave or stupid locals had to go and take a peek. When locals arrived at the woods to investigate, the army had already cordoned off the whole woods, and anyone who tried to approach the site for a look was backed off by armed officers. Well, most locals were backed off. The army released their findings shortly after the incident, announcing that nothing had happened and nothing was found. This is something local witnesses dispute. Bill Bullbush was one such local, and Bill claims that he witnessed this event. Bill saw this goddamn sky object stop, turn around, and fly the other way in the sky, just like it was controlled. It was after turning that Bill saw the object come down. Bill had to see more, so drove out to the area the craft appeared to go down. Bill got there before the military. Bill discovered a burning 10 to 15 foot long bronze craft shaped like a freaking acorn. Bill explained that the acorn was glowing and crackling when it begun sparking. Bill pooped his Kecksburg Keks and legged it home. People had begun approaching as Bill legged it, most likely the military, but they hadn't seen Bill, so Bill managed to make it home and spread the word. Nothing happened, military? You were quick, but you weren't quick enough.
I really hope that that is a typo in his name, and his name is actually Bluebush. Billy Bluebush of Kecksburg.
The Bluebush of Kecksburg, local legend. My heart sank a little bit as I was going through that section, as I said, just like it was controlled. Doesn't mean it's controlled on the craft. Not a drone.
The way you said that reminded me of the end of a TV show, where it just goes like, well, I can't. Not a drone. So, Bluebush kecked his pants.
Kecksburg kecked his pants.
Kecked himself. When also
it started sparking and people came. Yeah.
We must say, although kecks is a term for pants, you can keck yourself, which means to shit yourself. So he kecked himself and then legged it because
UK
it began.
English is confusing.
So it began, or as it began to spark.
Yeah.
So was he worried about it exploding, or was he worried that something was going to come out of it?
I think exploding, and also
So
folks were starting to approach, so a bit of both.
So a drone.
That wasn't what you asked.
Well, if he was worried about people coming out of it, I would have gone, okay, alien craft.
He might be thinking that it's crash landed.
Exploding.
Folks have passed away in there. Ain't no one getting out when it's left a big divot in the ground.
He didn't try to help them.
Well, if he'd have touched the craft, his hand would have probably burnt off.
Could he used his keks to cover his hand? And then touched it.
And burn his keks and his hand. I feel like you're stretching ever so slightly now. I love it how when I'll bring a crazy one to the table and you'll just go along with it. I pull a really logical, serious one to the table and you're trying to pull it apart.
Depends what mood you get me in.
Yeah. Bill.
Bluebush.
Bill Bullbush, not Bluebush.
Bluebush Bill.
Now he sounds like a pirate with a problem.
Best pirate name. Bluebush Bill.
I'm Bluebush Bill.
Why'd they call you that?
Well.
Drops his keks. Giant blue bush comes out. Like that scene from Scary Movie.
Yeah. Nobody can explain it.
I'm the blue bush of the sea. Savvy.
It still works. Bill wasn't the only witness who has since come forward. James R. Romansky.
Greenbush.
James R. Romansky Sr. was a volunteer firefighter, and two of the firefighters received... Sorry, I'm going to have to start that bit again, aren't I?
Blue bush?
James...
Where are you starting from?
James R. Romansky.
Blue bush?
No, we're not talking about Bill. James R. Romansky Sr. was a volunteer firefighter, and the firefighters received a call that night stating that an airplane had come down in the woods.
Did Blue Bush call them?
No.
Just asking.
Bill didn't call them. James and his crew rushed to the scene. What the crew were greeted with when they arrived at the smoky area, however, was not a plane at all. James described that the group happened upon a partially buried acorn-shaped craft covered in hieroglyphics. No sooner had the crew got a look at this object, though, than a group in long trench coats arrived and ordered the firefighters away. These don't sound like ordinary police or military. Watching from a distance, James saw a military flatbed truck turn up, which is a lorry to us in the UK, and James believes that the craft was loaded onto this truck and taken away. Several other local witnesses claim to have seen a flatbed truck departing the crash scene carrying some kind of object. That's not even all of the witnesses, because since this time, a goddamned Air Force security officer called Michael Rambacher, who was definitely allegedly truthfully whacked for this, claimed, and I quote, to have guarded an object which arrived on a flatbed truck just after this event whilst in the military. Michael did not believe that this object was human-made. Bam!
Okay. Were the firefighters called there by the military?
If you're about to suggest that Blue Bush contacted them.
Nope. I'm simply going to ask.
Is it possible that
if the military got there ridiculously quick, but not quick enough to beat Blue Bush, then did they let the firefighters in? Because they said the object was gone.
Sorry, who said the object was gone?
The military. Or were they just telling civilians that?
They were telling civilians that.
So they were telling civilians that, so they would have allowed the firefighters in.
So I think the firefighters got there at a similar kind of time.
To Blue Bush or the military?
The military. Blue Bush was already there alongside and left as people approached.
If they got there the same time as the military, who called them?
People who had seen it in the sky. Remember, this was seen by loads of people in the sky.
But they didn't know where it crashed.
They knew roughly. There was a boom.
They just said, was the boom before though? Like a sonic boom?
Who knows?
Or was the boom the crash?
Well, I wasn't there. I couldn't tell you for definite.
It's a drone. Either that or Blue Balls whipped his Blue Bush out.
Bill was in the bushes as this was all going down, and then obviously snuck away.
Mm-hmm.
So it could have been the firefighters or the military that he heard rustling towards, and he got scared alongside seeing the sparks and was like, "Nip."
So we have one firefighter, one Air Force security officer, one Blue Bush,
and hundreds of locals who saw it in the sky coming down.
But I mean, 3 that have seen it on the ground and verify it.
Which is pretty good when you think about it, because usually these sorts of stories don't get out at all.
Do we have any investigations from MUFON or any of those groups?
So I'll get
Project Blue
into...
Book? Did they investigate Blue Bush? Dubba-dee-dubba-die.
Some folks did some digging. I'll say that much for now because we're going to get into that in the next couple of sections.
Okay.
Looking at the credibility of some of these witnesses, Blue Ball's Bill Bullbush ran away. This was the 60s, so not everyone carried cameras like they do today, and Bill wouldn't have been very old, but why did Bill run so far away, rather than approaching the people coming towards the crash to talk about it? Air Force Security Officer Michael Rambacker, meanwhile, has since become a UFO investigator and is also open in stating that Michael did not actually see the craft he was guarding. Would now being a UFO researcher influence some of the details of Michael's story? Perhaps, but we've heard accounts of binary code or beings in other cases. Michael doesn't lay it on thick.
Yeah, but he also, in not laying it on thick, you think, he hasn't laid it on thick, therefore it must be true. He knows what he's doing. He's clever. This whole Rambacker.
He's bringing the equivalent of clicks today.
Mm-hmm.
I see.
Not saying enough, but saying just enough to pique the interest and make it believable.
Yeah.
I see his game.
James Romansky is reported to have a criminal record and has since appeared on Unsolved Mysteries to share his story, though we don't believe that he was paid much, if anything, and just because someone's made a mistake doesn't mean they're full of shit. James didn't go public until 1990, probably feeling that he was safe from being whacked off by this point. If you hear this man speak, this man is a no bullshit dude, and you're about to find that out, Mr. Moonwalker and dear listeners, because we have a video of James, aka Jim's, own account.
Ooh, maybe is it the statute of limitations?
Right.
Has run out from his military time, so he's able to talk about things
stuff
in 1990.
Yeah, possible.
And they were like, you can't say shit for 15 years. It's 15 years is up.
15 years and a day, he's like, right.
Now there's a TV show I can go on. I'm on that motherfucker.
Well, first of all, we were in a field hunting for a downed aircraft, and the first rescue team
What a
already
mustache.
found it and radioed into the fire hole, gave the coordinates, and it was down in front of us, and we hightailed it out of our search area, went down into there, and we got there expecting a smashed up airplane. Wings, fuselage, etc. No such character. Came down through the woods, and here's this humongous piece of metal laying there. I mean, this thing I've described time and time again as a very large acorn-shaped object.
Got some big mutton chops there on the side of his face.
Was pushed down into the dirt where it came in and landed after it took out the top of trees and brush and everything coming in. Came back in an oblong shape. Around the bottom was what I call a bumper, and then the bottom was perfectly flat. No signs of propulsion or anything. There was no doors, no windows. There was no ways of getting in this thing, at least none that I seen.
Drone.
No seams on it, no rivets, nothing. The only thing I seen was this bumper around it and had these real strange markings on it, which I've often referred to as similar to the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. So, as a volunteer fireman, we did what we were supposed to do. Find the crash site, do a preliminary investigation for survivors who treat anybody there, which we didn't because there was none that we could see. There was no way of getting in this object. The first team had already radioed in its position. We're there 10, 15 minutes all talking around, doing a preliminary search, wondering what we discovered. Two gentlemen come down through the woods, trench coats on, ramrod stiff, crew cut. All right, this is a restricted area. You're now ordered to get out of it. Oh, wait a minute, I'm a civilian. You ain't gonna order me nothing. But as a fireman,
Shut the fuck
I'm being
up.
relieved from what I'm doing. So I got out of there. We're going out through the woods. We didn't go no more than 15, 20 feet. And I know from me to you, here come the military. Full uniforms, equipment, marching right down through the woods with flashlights. This is December. Late in the evening, it's cold, it's wet.
How far away were you from a military base?
Well, the closest base that I knew of was Pittsburgh, which is approximately 45 miles to the west.
So within 15 minutes of your arrival at the site, the military was there.
You got it.
Okay. All right. Now, what did they say to you after this happened? I mean, I know there were several members of the report I saw on Unsolved Mysteries. Several members of the community were there. People, right? Other people.
That guy talking now is really familiar, and I can't remember his name.
There was no press or media at the immediate crash site. And what I didn't know up on top of the hill, because I'd come in through the side, the military had taken over a farmhouse. I mean, from what I understand, military brass. They took over up there, did all their orders and whatever they were doing from up there. And that's where I presume that the military who came down through the woods came from. Because when we went out, we had to walk back to the fire hall, which is approximately the way we had to go, I'd say a good mile. But by the time we got back to the fire hall, it was wall-to-wall military. I mean, there was trucks and jeeps and cars. There was guards on the door.
Did anybody say to you, I don't want you talking about this, don't say a word about this, or were you, did you
What
put that
they
term
did.
debriefed?
What they did. I mean, these people virtually told us just to shut up, get to your vehicles, and be quiet.
And you did what you
One
were
of the
told.
guys even asked the guards at the door, look, I got to go to the bathroom. Now, these guys stand there with weapons. Whether they were loaded or not, I don't know. None of us was brave enough to try to find out. He said, I got to go to the bathroom. They said, see those weeds over there? Use them. Well, by that time, we just headed for the trucks. Let me ask
Go ahead,
this. I have a daughter and a son that both went into the military within the last 2 or 3 years. One went in the Marine Corps, one went in the U.S. Air Force. My daughter come to me from the United States Marine Corps, and she said, Dad, your name come up on a computer as my father. I had to sign a statement saying I would never ask a request for any information from Kecksburg. My son had to sign 2 statements.
Oh, about you? About yourself?
Pardon?
Any information about yourself? Your daughter had to sign a paper that says she would not ask for any information about you?
Not about me, but about Kecksburg. Because
Okay,
my
but
name
what
come
happened?
up as her father.
Okay, but you know what?
Then, no, wait a minute, Montel.
He's
Okay.
being watched.
Then
Montel, that's
and
it.
the U.S. Air Force had to sign 2 papers. One,
Jim, wait, just jump to the chase. Because the fact of the chase here is the fact that I'm telling you, I had some of the highest clearances this country has to offer. I've been through files on top of files on top of files. I still ain't seen nothing yet.
But did you have a need to know?
Period.
You didn't have a need to know.
Yeah,
you
but
didn't need to
that's
know.
also
Now,
not
my
true.
son goes in the Air Force, and they tell him he can't even request to go to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base for duty because I seen something, and that's where my UFO is sitting.
Maybe
today.
Calm down, James.
Maybe his MOS was something that they didn't have a qualification for it, right,
His
Patterson?
MOS has nothing to do with it.
Okay, all right, hold on a
The
minute.
government is covering this up. They don't want no one to know. They don't want no one to get access to anything because they're afraid people will find out the truth. The technology. You was in the service.
You tell 'em.
He is,
Technology we got today.
Getting a bit agitated here.
Wait.
Maybe some of it did.
Now that is a no-nonsense kind of guy, is it not? Baby, you're drizzy.
The more agitated he gets, the more it would seem like they're trying to shut him up.
Yeah.
In terms of, yeah, no, we've had clearance for that. We've never seen anything like that. I've had all the clearances in the top brass for this. Yeah, but you weren't necessarily looking for it.
Yeah, I mean, why you got to try and shut him down and argue with him? Why can't you just accept his experience?
Yeah. I mean,
He's not saying what it is. He's just saying it was something.
not only that, he's saying, I've had all the clearances in, like, the top clearances, and I've not seen anything. You can have all the top clearances, but if you're not specifically looking for something, you're not going to see it.
Yeah, and if people are giving you that clearance, you're only seeing what they probably want you to see.
Absolutely.
And there's probably levels above what you think is top.
You might think you've got the top clearance. You ain't got shit. Montel.
Yeah, Montel.
However, drone. I believe Jim saw something.
Yeah.
However,
without question. What that something was. He's not saying what it was.
Yeah. He has no idea. He's just telling you the shape of what it looked like.
Something is there they don't want you to know about. And he called it technology, didn't he?
He did indeed. And what is a drone?
It's a flying thing.
What is a drone?
It's a piece of equipment.
A piece of what?
Equipment.
Technology.
UFO researcher Stan Gordon has visited the Kecksburg woods with several of the witnesses independently, and all have taken Stan to the same area when saying this is where the UFO went down. In the years that have passed, broken tree branches have been discovered suggesting a path that a crashing object may have taken in Kecksburg, and more recent soil analysis has identified damage to the soil transpiring during 1965, though the area is smaller than you'd expect. This thing was all over the news at the time and has remained a pretty popular UFO story since. So much so that I'm actually shocked at how legit this case is and the fact that I'd barely heard of it before probing. The Federal Aviation Authority, our buddies at FAR, confirmed that the FAR received 23 reports from aircraft pilots starting at 4:44 p.m. on the 9th of December, seeing something in the sky. A seismograph near Detroit showed shockwaves from the object as it moved through the sky. There are loads of scientific journal articles and research confirming all of this. The path of the object has even been triangulated. The fact that something came down is not in question.
I'm not debating that anything came down. I'm just debating what it is.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're not debating, are you? You've been saying one thing all the way from the start because I told you it's not a plane.
Well, I am debating because you're arguing with me.
Oh, I'm not even saying what it is.
Then it's a drone.
It's a probe.
It's a probe.
It's a giant probe.
Drone probe.
You bought a probe the other week, didn't you?
I did.
You sent me a photo.
It's
What are you going to do with it?
I'm going to stick it in some meat.
You're going to probe.
You said prone, and roast beef came out beautiful.
Glorious.
It's a very good probe. Going to use it more often. Hashtag probe. Can I send you a picture every time I probe?
I want a slow video of it going in.
And coming out. Fucking blue bush.
Today, many people think that the object crashing in the Kecksburg woods was actually an optical illusion and that a craft didn't crash at all. The only way to explain that one would be to suggest that many of the population of Kecksburg are lying. Obviously, a meteor was also theorised, but has since been ruled out due to the debris, the type of shockwave, and the nature of the fireball. It's been reported that the object may have been a nuclear satellite named Cosmos 96 from the then Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. We'll link back to this in a moment for how that story came out. Others believe that this was a retrieval operation regarding experimental United States tech. This was 1965. The US were testing nuke technology, including re-entry. Spy satellites too were all the rage, and it's quite possible that one could have ballsed up and crashed back down. The elephant in our room is always aliens, and what lends credibility there is that once the object was collected, it was gone. Never mentioned again. It's like it didn't happen.
If you watch a really old film and you see the top of a rocket land in the water with a parachute,
Yep.
could technically argue that's acorn shaped.
You could indeed. Wouldn't be a drone though, would it?
It could be. There's no parachute, so it couldn't have been on top of a rocket. What if they were just using what equipment they already had and changed how it performed to make it out like a drone. Or they were thinking, how can we turn this into a missile?
What, how do we turn a drone into a missile?
No, how do we turn what looks like the top of a rocket into like an actual bomb?
Well,
And they were just testing how it would operate in certain
do you know what?
circumstances.
Technically, a rocket
Right.
is a missile, isn't it? It's a pointy craft full of rocket fuel. If it hits something, it's going to decimate it and probably blow up.
What makes a missile, or what makes a rocket a rocket?
If there are people on it and it's meant for travel rather than destruction, I guess.
So a rocket's not a missile.
But it could be.
But it's
If you
not.
fired a rocket at someone.
With people in it. Does it have to have the capacity to have people in it, or
If
does
you
it have to have people in it?
If you think of computer games, first-person shooters where you play online, often there are weapons called rockets that are fired at each other.
I suppose a rocket launcher.
Mm-hmm.
So I suppose
Interesting.
it doesn't have to have the capacity to house people.
You could sit on a rocket.
What if it's the size? In terms of a missile is generally quite long. A rocket
is a
is
rocket,
generally
and it
quite
breaks off.
fat.
Breaks off in stages. Take you to the moon.
Quite like to know what differentiates a rocket and a missile.
We could Google it.
I mean, we could. I mean, this is your case, so I'll let you Google it.
Nah. I don't want to know. I like mystery.
Drone.
Many years passed. Eventually, New York journalist Leslie Kean spearheaded a lawsuit from the Coalition for Freedom of Information against NASA pertaining to access to documents from this incident. This happened after NASA agreed to search for documents relating to this incident in 1965, then ghosted everyone for a few decades. NASA lost the lawsuit and had to provide hundreds of documents. Nothing definitive was uncovered, but interesting questions were raised, with lots of documents missing or murked. Kean remains convinced that something came down in Kecksburg, with the documents alluding to Project Moondust and NASA being involved in examination and recovery of objects of unknown origin.
Space drones.
Despite losing, I personally maintain that if really secret shit went down, the law wouldn't matter. There's no way sensitive shit would be released into the public domain. Meanwhile, in December 2005, during that lawsuit process, a NASA spokesperson told the Associated Press that Russian satellite debris was discovered at the crash site, which is how the Russian satellite theory developed. Records of these debris were reported by NASA to have been lost somehow in 1987. NASA's public liaison officer, Steve McConnell, testified under oath that 2 boxes of papers on the event were just missing. Orbital analysis of all known satellites did not come up with any candidates for this crash. Trajectory analysis of all the sightings of the Kecksburg object also suggest that Kecksburg couldn't have been the crash site unless the object was controlled rather than falling. Suspicious. Today, there is an annual UFO festival in Kecksburg. Well, not literally today, unless you happen to be listening to this episode on that day, but one weekend per year around late July, you can find people in paranormal costumes, fireworks, guest speakers, games, arts and crafts, and markets full of goodies. There's even a parade which myself and Mr. Moonwalker absolutely haven't taken part in and murked everybody too close to the truth for the past 20 odd years.
Space drone. But Steve McConnell testified under oath.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
When you testify under oath,
Yep.
you place your hand on the Bible.
Yes.
And you testify. That
Yes. You have to
you
repeat after the
speak
judge, yeah.
the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Sort of.
You do not believe in God. What is stopping you from lying under oath?
Well, I think many people don't give a shit regardless
Nope.
whether they believe in God or not and just go to town.
I think people talk shit under oath. And I think Mr. McConnell is one of them.
In what way?
In the fact that the two boxes of papers weren't missing. They were like, let's get rid of this shit.
Yeah, they've covered up something.
Yep.
Absolutely. No doubt in my mind, yeah.
I mean, the fact that we have 3 drones now, but they didn't want people to know about drones back then. Let's cover this shit up.
Well, the thing is, drones would be... If
Think
something...
of all the UFOs in the world that people have gone, I see UFO. Drone.
My key takeaway from this bit is that
Drone.
the suggestion is perhaps they shot down a satellite, but the flight path was more controlled, so it was very unlikely to have been a satellite.
Mm-hmm.
Because once it's down, a satellite's coming down. It's not like a craft that can move about.
Testing technology that the world wasn't ready for.
Using propulsion systems that indicate that we could use more cost-effective, even free energy.
Fuel got burned, and they were like, we'll learn from this. They gradually, I think it was set on a trajectory, and they had an issue where it started to burn more fuel than it needed, therefore causing blue smoke. Broke the sound barrier, sonic boom! And they were like, shit, we need to bring it down. And it just happened to be over Kecksburg. That's why they knew where it was going down so quickly, and then they got to it.
In 1990, television show Unsolved Mysteries covered this case and created a big acorn penis-shaped UFO known as the Space Acorn to support the story. This model was then given to Kecksburg and sits on a pedestal behind the volunteer fire department. Before we finish, as Mr. Moonwalker looks at images of the acorn, and yes, that is James Romansky in the second picture, I'm going to throw a curveball. Dear listeners, do you remember our very early episode on the Nazi alien connection, which was episode 7, which, by the way, my gosh, when I listen back to our early episodes, but anyhow, we mentioned a little thing in that episode called Die Glocke, aka the bell. This thing, created by the Nazis, had anti-gravitational and time-manipulating properties and was at the heart of the Nazi space program. Remember, post-war trials confessed to the existence of this thing and claimed that scientists were murdered to cover it up. Artist Charles Delchaux also repeatedly painted this thing before it was created. What if either they did indeed create this thing and it bounced through space and time until crashing down in 1965, or, even more worryingly, what if this thing is the craft in which Hitler escaped, as we covered on our Patreon episode Still Alive? These things look far, far too similar. Annoyingly, the similarity is clear to see, but it turns out that ancient aliens may have come up with this theory, and Wikipedia too recommends similar articles, including Die Glocke, so he can't claim to be the first to connect these dots. That is the case.
Is it possible that they just shaped it that after knowing about Die Glocke? The fact that there
Unlikely.
is no
I mean, anything is possible, but
connection, they were just like, oh, let's try that shape, see if it works.
yeah, these folks weren't throwing around references to Die Glocke at the time when they came out with it. That's been sort of decades later that people have suggested that.
Then, acorn drone.
You made your mind up in the very first section before we'd covered any details of the case, and you're sticking to it regardless.
It's your reaction to my my claim that has made me stick to it.
In summary, we've covered Pennsylvania's Roswell, whereby on the 9th of December 1965, a fireball was seen in the sky across many states in America and Canada before coming down around Kecksburg.
Am I about to be £2,000 richer?
Moving on. The US military were immediately on the scene and armed officers prevented local access to the area. We have several local witnesses of this who all claim independently that an acorn-shaped object came down in the exact same spot when later probed by a UFO researcher. An ex-Air Force officer claimed to have been assigned to guard an object from the Kecksburg site, to which the measures taken led the officer to believe that the object was not of this world. There's lots of evidence, including 23 pilot reports, hundreds of witnesses across North America and Canada, seismometer readings, damage to the environment around the crash site, and NASA confirming something came down. We studied the credibility of some of the witnesses, and they generally came across as believable, genuine, and ballsy, and slightly angry. A Freedom of Information lawsuit was raised against NASA around 2003 after NASA ignored requests for information, with it revealed in 2005 that NASA had allegedly recovered then Soviet satellite debris. But the docs were all gone. Meanwhile, orbital analysis makes it difficult to understand how the object in the sky could have landed in Kecksburg if it was an uncontrolled object such as a powerless satellite or a meteor. But something was definitely in the sky. We explored alternative explanations, such as this being a recovery mission regarding experimental US military tech, or whether maybe this was the return of Die Glocke, the anti-gravitational and time-manipulating device speculated to have been created during World War II. Maybe they succeeded, but the object skipped the 4 E's and ended up in Kecksburg. That's it for this one. Is there anything we need to go back over before we conclude Mr. Moonwalker?
There is nothing we need to go over at all.
Gee, I wonder what your conclusion is going to be.
This is aliens, damn it!
So are you saying that it was aliens?
Yep.
I can't tell if you're being serious.
I am.
Anything to add, or you just leaving it at that?
Leaving it at that.
It was aliens!
Yep.
Done! Let's go! Yeah. This one is bloody interesting, isn't it?
I mean, what makes it more interesting is your response. Because I'm about to be £2,000 richer. Because we all know this really wasn't aliens. It's a drone.
I don't think it was a drone.
You know it was a drone.
I really don't.
There we go. It was a drone. I am £3,000 richer.
You're adding money.
I'm not adding anything. It's always been 3,500.
I never shook at anything, and I'm not saying that it was a drone. I think this one feels quite legit.
In that it was a drone?
And that it wasn't a drone.
Okay, what was it?
So, something definitely came down.
Yep.
It was either
I believe that.
an alien craft.
I don't
or
believe that.
It was some sort of spy craft.
Drone.
No, I don't think it was a drone.
Spy drone.
I don't think our capabilities were quite at that level at that time.
I think they were.
Why weren't we using drones until...
I think they were due to technology stolen from a ancient alien spacecraft. We were testing them early.
So you're saying that it was aliens, sort of. I don't even know what you're saying.
I'm saying, say it was a drone.
I don't think it was a drone.
Right,
I don't.
I'm £7,000 richer.
What? I'm saying it wasn't a drone. I do not think it was a drone.
We said at the start, if
That
it was
you'd
a
give
drone,
me $8,000 if
then I would get £2,500 from you. If you said it wasn't a drone,
No.
I'd get $7,000. So I'm $7,000 richer.
I said
If
that,
you listen back, you'll clearly hear me state that.
you know, people
Right
are
there.
going to have heard what you said at the start, don't you, by this point? What I said was...
Listen back, and you will clearly hear me state about 20 seconds ago that you would have to give me either $2,500 or $7,000.
No, on both accounts. I do think this is one of the most convincing ones we've ever had.
Jim was very adamant something was there.
Yeah,
and
to the
to
point...
be honest, I believe him.
Mhm.
But again, or not again, I've been harping on about it being a drone for so long, but I do believe it was some form of military tech.
yeah.
And they didn't want people to not necessarily see it, but get their hands on it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they came down. So, get the fuck out of here. Point guns and shit. So, I'm siding on military tech.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so on the fence. I want to say that it was aliens, but
I want to say it was a drone as well.
no, I don't think
wanna
it was a
pay me.
drone. I think it might have been part of a piloted ship or a piloted ship. I don't think it was a drone.
Piloted ship that they were testing the capabilities
Yeah,
of.
being that this was kind of Cold War time, something supersonic they were working on, whether it was a payload delivery device or whether it was a spy device, as I say.
Also, yeah, like we mentioned earlier with the blue smoke and the burning of oil.
Yeah.
I think that was some form of fuel that they were using to...
Yeah, I don't
not
think
pilot,
that
but-
we had the technology to create sort of stealth pilotless devices for another 30 years, 40 years.
When was this again?
1960s. Is it
Ah.
65, I think? Yeah, December 1965.
Okay. So, yeah.
So yeah, by the time we were going, well, I say we absolutely weren't doing this, and I don't really support any wars, but the Iraq conflict, by that kind of time, drones, absolutely, the military could probably do things that they weren't disclosing, but I just don't think they'd quite got there at this point.
Could have been that they were even just testing fuel methods
Yeah,
and how far they could get using
how quick they could go.
a certain amount of fuel or how fast it would go.
But yeah, regardless, something absolutely went down. People are covering it up for whatever reasons, and it was probably aliens. That is a wrap for today. Thank you for listening to But It Was Aliens. If you haven't quite heard enough, did you know that you can head on over to patreon.com/But It Was Aliens, where each month we probe an extreme paranormal case too wild for the general public. You can gain access to these bonus episodes for the cost of a regular coffee. That is a bargain, my friends. You simply cannot put a price on education, and trust us, you need to learn how big Rasputin's wang was and what not to eat in front of a hungry canine level 7 master of hypnosis. If you have heard quite enough, frankly, we'd understand that. But if you have suggestions for future episodes that may entice you back, we always love to hear them. You can hit us up on the Twitter and pretty much everywhere
The Twitter.
at But It Was Aliens. On Facebook, we have a publicly private group called Extraterrestrial Towers, and it is alleged that if you join, you will be protected when the aliens come. Sure. They do land precisely in the middle of the towers, but they will not harm you. I mean, absolutely, they will poke your butt, but you will be fine.
You won't feel it. They use numbing cream. So Kev tells me.
But you will be fine. I like how you won't shout on the Twitter because you're mindful of my daughter potentially sleeping downstairs.
Absolutely.
She won't hear a thing.
Yeah, you say that.
Moxley, on the other hand, gets excited when he hears it because he knows that we're finishing up and we're about to go downstairs. That is it for this episode. So until next time, if space is a vacuum, why is Mars so dusty? The truth is up there. #. Pro